Yeah. Hi there, welcome to IT Wire TV. Today we're speaking with Gigamon Chief Product Officer Michael Dickman. Thank you so much for joining us, Michael.
Hey, David, it's a real pleasure to speak with you.
No, thank you. And Gigamon been following for many years, and really appreciate that Gigamon provides great observability into just what's happening on a network. And it's funny in years past. I remember, we'd always talk about systems like black boxes, and something goes in and something goes out, but observability has become a real big issue, hasn't it? It's well and good having this black box, but far out when something goes wrong, you need to know what's going on inside that black box. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, that's absolutely true. And that black box is, what is the scope of that black box is also a question, right? Because as more organizations have application modernization, containers, cloud architectures, the black box might actually be pretty big, versus just many small black boxes. So there's a lot to explore there.
yeah, no, definitely true. And I guess leading on from that, I suppose encrypted traffic. I mean, that's become that's a real issue now. And I understand it's, Gigamon have said, look, encrypted traffic is becoming the biggest blind spot for organisations. What I suppose, can you expand on that? What do you mean by that, and why is that the case?
Yeah, sure, happy to. So it's always hard to say the biggest, right? But the reason that I think we're talking about that is there is a lot of I'd call like basic visibility from one perspective, which is the log based perspective, in terms of what applications or network nodes or other devices think is happening, which is useful. And so now there's fairly good coverage of that. There's a lot of tools that provide access to consume and display and analyze those kinds of logs. The challenge is that those logs can be disabled, and they are. Those logs can be manipulated, which is even more nefarious, right? So you could actually produce false logs or change logs, and security teams might think everything is well when it is not. And so the real source of truth that customers need to look at from a security perspective is network traffic, because that's the data communications. Like if it actually happened, you'll see it on the network. So that's good. And that's why network traffic has always been such a rich area for security. Now that is becoming a blind spot worse than it has in the past. And so your question is why? And the answer is actually encryption. So you think about, we've always had encrypted traffic. We've had VPNs, we have HTTPS and all of this. But now with microservices, containerized apps, API calls, almost all traffic now, both inside of an organization, between machines, as well as between clients and servers, it's all being encrypted now. And so when I say all, maybe the figure is like 95%, 92%. It depends on which source you look at.
Yep.
But it's just dramatically encrypted. And this is good because it ensures confidentiality of information for organizations. But that is a double-edged sword. And that double-edged sword is that attackers are using encrypted traffic to move around an organization without being observed by the security teams. And so this is a massive blind spot. We've done some studies of what customers think is happening, because it's hard to know. And 91% of attacks are estimated to use encryption today to move around an organization unseen. And that sure looks like a giant blind spot to us.
Yeah, wow. No, definitely. I can definitely understand that. So then, Gigamon have, I guess, to combat that, have come up with new Gigamon pre-encryption technology. Is that right? And I guess, what is that, and what does it do?
Yeah, no, thanks for that. So as you can tell by the name, pre-encryption, we're obviously alluding to decryption, but interestingly, we are not decrypting anything. And so the whole concept behind pre-encryption is, what if you could see the plain text for security purposes and you could manage it securely? What if you could see that plain text without decrypting anything? And so what Gigamon pre-encryption technology is it's a way to pull out the plain text in a highly distributed fashion from inside the workload itself and bring that plain text in a new secure tunnel back to a security tool for threat detection, forensics, analytics, incident response, compliance, all the use cases we know. What the technology actually is we deploy something we call the Gigamon Universal Cloud Tap, or UCT, and that goes into a workload. And we use that to program and configure a little tiny piece of code that exists in the kernel itself, which is called eBPF, Extended Berkeley Packet Filter.
Okay.
Some of your, some people watching may be very familiar. Some people may have never heard of it. It's a stable part of the Linux kernel itself, which is generally used for other purposes, like, hey, how's my CPU doing? But we have found a way to use that to pull out plain text before it has been encrypted or after it has been decrypted, hence the name pre-encryption, before it has been encrypted.
Yeah,
and so
right.
we pull that out with this UCT, and we can bring it back to security tools in a controlled, scalable manner, and applying a lot of optimization and transformation services on top. And so you get this end-to-end solution that is scalable across all public clouds, all private clouds, all container workloads, all virtual machine workloads. And because it works at this layer of all the way down into the kernel of the workload, it works with TLS 1.3, with perfect forward secrecy, with any cipher. And because you're not decrypting anything, it's highly efficient. And so you get the benefit of security, being able to actually see what's going on in a way that's scalable and efficient and simple to deploy.
Yeah.
And that, in a nutshell, is Gigamon pre-encryption technology.
That sounds awesome, and I can only imagine that must have been a huge technical challenge. I guess at a practical, at nuts and bolts level, I guess what does this really? I mean, so that sounds really impressive, but for the customer, I guess what does that really mean? If you're an ordinary customer and you go, "Wow, this prescription technology sounds awesome," what does it really mean? I guess the customer says, "How do I benefit from this?" What does it mean to me?
Sure. Yeah, so the easiest and most obvious benefit is you can detect threats that you would otherwise miss. I just spoke actually yesterday with a customer who's an early deployment, and what he was saying is he is in his organization, they are identifying and catching more threats.
Wow.
But it's not like many more actually. Right. So if you think about the volume of threats, whatever customers have today is already identifying a lot of potential risks. But what this customer was finding is there were a small number of very real compromises and potential breaches that he was missing.
Wow.
Because of the encryption, and those are now being identified. And so this would be able to say, hey, here's some files, here's some API calls, here's some traffic. Is it a threat? Most security tools today would say no, or we don't know, or maybe. And now you can actually say more definitively, yes or no, that is or is not a threat. And so this will create more efficiency and completeness in the ability to detect threats, which we think is just so essential today.
That's oh gosh, every organisation of all levels get their security checklist, cyber insurance checklist saying, have you had any breaches? And
Right.
of course you want to say no, but
Yeah,
imagine
that's right.
having breaches you don't even know about. That's scary, isn't it? So that's fantastic.
It's even worse.
Yeah. So I guess tell me then why Gigamon itself is in the unique position to be able to solve this challenge.
Yeah, sure. So Gigamon has really been a leader in network visibility for a long time. We'll turn 20 years old next year. But as you mentioned at the beginning, like this whole trend around observability and thinking about security, we wanted to think, how can we bring the depth of network intelligence to observability? And so Gigamon has built a deep observability pipeline. It's deep because of network intelligence. It's observability because it can see not only into direct packets, but also flows and metadata of what's really happening. And it's a pipeline because we can bring that to any tool located anywhere from any workload. And so our position provides the ability to gain access to network intelligence really from any workload. By any workload, we mean virtual machine, container, bare metal physical, IoT, in any environment, by which we mean private cloud, public cloud, data center, colocation facility, and bring that to any tool, whether it's a SaaS tool, an on-premises tool, homegrown, or whatnot, with transformation and enrichment. So by bringing that Gigamon broader position and applying pre-encryption technology into that pipeline, we're now unleashing a huge amount of power across any environment a customer's already in, already using a solution that they're familiar with, and something that can reach and enhance the value of their entire tool ecosystem. Because that Gigamon position has always been about, let's make everybody better. Let's make all the security tools more effective. Let's help the customers do more with less and have more automation. And now we're applying that also to encrypted traffic in containers and virtual machines in any cloud.
That's awesome. No, I appreciate that a lot. Michael, you've been really insightful, and I'm excited. I'm sold. I think, yeah, Gigavon and Gigavon free encryption technology sound fantastic. And no, I appreciate your time a lot. That's been very helpful.
Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it is always fun to talk about this really important topic. So thanks.
Yes, no, thank you so much. So that's been Michael Dickman, Chief Product Officer for Gigamon. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Take care.